Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Evan, for helping me out. I appreciate that. Excellent demonstration of leadership. But thanks for coming out live to learn a bit more about leadership. I'm looking forward to this. As you look through these other questions, we'll kind of go through them as well. John's clarification about a nice way is not being rude when you do it, and stay talking in a nice tone and not an angry tone. All right, I really appreciate that. That's well thought out. As you look at these other questions, characteristics of people who are leaders. So when you think about a leader, what's a specific quality or characteristic that those people have? That person or people that you can think of. What is hard about being a leader? And then when you really think about great leaders, what are they doing for others? And why is leaders important? So confidence is a characteristic of people who are leaders. Great. It's a good one to talk about for sure. We're gonna start to head through these. So as we keep going, I'd like you guys to chime in on all these different pieces. What's hard about being a leader is getting people to listen to you. That actually is going to help us tie into where we're headed. Thanks, Evan. Okay. So first things first, what is leadership? And like Evan and John shared their ideas of what leadership is. We do have a definition of leadership. And the definition is the action of leading a group of people or an organization. Now, leadership specifically means something important to Salvo. Does anybody know what leadership is to Salvo Soccer Club? It's very important. You're right. If you look at this screen even, there's 4 words along the bottom, and those 4 words are our core values. And leadership is one of our 4 core values. So I think it's great that you guys are all here today. But with that, leadership is a part of our message and a part of who we are as one of our core values. So it is applied to leading the people around you, but a big part about leadership when it comes to how we talk about it is also your ability to lead yourself. There is this common thought that leaders are born as leaders, and if you're not born as a leader or a personality that's a leader, you are then born as a follower, and that's not the case. Some people are born with certain characteristics that help them develop leadership abilities. Like being extroverted is one, someone that's really outgoing and likes to talk to people, that helps. And even being really tall, sometimes people look to tall people naturally. So those aspects of a person, characteristics, or even physical traits like that, those are helpful, but that does not mean if you are introverted or you are short that you cannot be a leader. So certainly there are aspects that help, but leadership is absolutely a series of developed skills. So everyone has the ability to become a leader, and it comes down to how much effort you choose to put in to developing those skills for you and who you are. Now we're talking about the characteristics that a leader has. Jocelyn shared confidence. Can anybody else share a couple, even just words, maybe some kind of ping words that we could think about when you think about a leader? What's a characteristic that that person has? Empathetic. Ooh, I really like that, Kaden. Good stuff. Being collected and cool under pressure. So maybe composed. Very good, Evan. Respected. So they are respected. Avery, I like that. Great. Anybody else? Blake Frith, do you have anything to add for us? Friendly, Evan. Confidence. Again, yes. There are a variety of qualities and characteristics that going into being a good leader. So as you guys all have noted, there's some ways what you've said is similar, but in some ways what you've said has been a little bit different, and that's all great. I think it's important now to take a minute and think about the qualities and characteristics that you have. And if you have your phone or a piece of paper, wherever is comfortable for you, just note down a couple characteristics that you have when it comes to what you believe is applied to leaders. And you can see this image that I have up here, and these are some words that are applied a lot of times to leaders. It's not full list because you can apply a lot of different pieces, but it is somewhere to start thinking. So you guys shared additional ones: respected, friendly, being collected, empathetic. All of those pieces tie in as well. So jot down, I'll give you about 30 more seconds. Jot down what characteristics you have and who you are. And as you're thinking about this, you may start to notice that you're recognizing some characteristics that you feel like you don't have yet. And that mindset is really critical when we're thinking through this, because you do have the ability to develop characteristics and these qualities that you don't have yet. So you can also note down those pieces of, maybe I'm not super focused yet, but I know that'd be really helpful to be an effective leader. So that would be something I'm not great at yet, but something I can actively focus on to improve. So ideally, you'll have a list of characteristics you believe you have now, and some maybe you feel like you don't have yet, or you don't have them quite to the level you hope to have. So there are some things that make leadership a difficult task, and some of you have shared those. Evan said what's hard about being a leader is getting people to listen to you. So getting people to hear what you're saying. I think that's tied specifically to being on the field, but in moments you can even think about that not being tied to being on the field. John had said earlier that it can be hard for leaders is that people look up to you and expect you to be an almost perfect player. So there's some pressure with being a leader. And Evan also added that it is difficult to be respected. Is that what you mean, Evan? Okay. So there are some things that make leadership a difficult task, for sure. Ooh, interesting. That's good, Jocelyn. Being insecure about what you do or say. So maybe some inner uncertainty with yourself. We're going to talk about a couple pieces, but we will open up this conversation again. So few things that are some really big ones for many others are the ones we'll talk about here. Admitting mistakes is a hard thing to do. And that is one piece that good leaders are able to do. Oh, John also said you might get made fun of for being like a coach's pet. So if you feel like you're a leader and the coach leans on you, that then your peers might look at you in a different way that you're not hoping for. Okay. Yeah, well, let's talk about those again. But if we're thinking back to admitting mistakes, owning when you maybe do something wrong or make a mistake. So how Jocelyn talked about maybe being uncertain about what you say or do. And I know John referenced feeling like you have to be a perfect player. And I think one really important aspect for all of you, if you are listening to this live or if you're tuning in later to listen to this, is that being perfect is not a realistic expectation. And so mistakes are actively part of what it means to be human, what it is to be a person, and what it is to be a leader. And a great trait of a leader is someone who is able to admit their mistakes. So the ability to say, yeah, I messed up and I'm going to try and do better next time, that's not something that's easy to do. But it does help, maybe even with that inner turmoil that you may have about the pressures from your peers. The next one. There we go. Listening with a goal of learning. Has anybody ever heard of that before? Evan, could you unmute yourself and share what that means to you?
Like listening with the intent to actually learn something and not just listening just to hear what they're saying.
Okay. Yeah, really good. That is a nice way to say it. Another way you could think about this is listening with the intention of understanding. So I bet we could all think of moments, I know I can, where I've been in a conversation with a group or even with one person where I've been wanting them to kind of finish saying what they're saying so I can say what I want to say. Or I haven't really been trying to understand what they mean. I just want to share what I mean. And the ability to learn how to listen to others, to truly understand what they mean and where they're coming from, that is not something that's always easy and is another vital skill. Let's see. John also says, you also don't know everything the coach is going to say, so you should still pay attention. Right. And being a leader doesn't mean you're taking the role of a coach, especially when we're talking about within a team environment. But ideally, being a leader is something that can help the team. And we're going to talk here in a second about what is important about leadership. Did anybody else have anything you'd like to add about certain difficulties with being a leader or growing to be a leader or trying to be a leader within your team? Oh, John, so he's working on being a better leader by trying to stay away from distractions and maybe some friends at practice, so you're more able to focus. So you're more maybe able to set an example. Is that what you're talking about, John? Cool. Good stuff. All right. So a lot of what we've talked about is how what qualities leaders have, what can be hard about being a leader, but what is it that you guys think great leaders do for other people? Help them achieve what they want to achieve. They empower them. Kaden, nice. Very good. Jocelyn, do you have an idea? Build up their confidence, motivate them. Yeah, for sure. All of these are really good. So we can all agree that great leaders do really impactful things for the people that they are leading. Being positive and upbeat. What does that do for others, Evan, being positive and upbeat? Jocelyn says helping someone fix a mistake. So if they make a mistake, being there to help them through it. John says don't make your teammates. So if your teammates make a mistake, don't get them down because it won't help them play better. It might in fact help make them play worse. And Evan's clarity about being positive and upbeat is not being negative towards others. So maybe John and Evan are kind of talking about the similar thing. And Avery adds, not always claim all the glory for themselves and share the place to look ways to help others. Wow, very good. And being supportive. This is a really good list. So leadership is really important to a team, to humans, how we interact, businesses, and a whole variety of life. But leaders, how we've talked about, leaders can be anyone. It's not just one type of person that has certain personality traits or looks a certain way. Anybody can grow to be a leader. Like it's a great commendation to all of you for being on this call today, because that is an active step to growing into being a better leader than you were before. So taking an opportunity to lead yourself, to get on the webinar is a great step, like we've talked about. You are right now actively modeling the way, and leadership is learned. So these are some other aspects that I think encompass in a way what you guys were saying, but you added in some really good stuff. So bringing the best out of others, where we talked about not being negative, so we can bring out the best in others when maybe they've made a mistake or they've had a hard time. Empowering them, believing in them, all of those things are really critical. Thanks for all that input. So now, it takes certain things to be successful to be a leader. And it is just like a sport. And in order to get really good, so I'll use soccer as an example, to be a really good soccer player, I know we have a variety of positions through everybody on this today. To be a really good 9 or a really good center back or a really good center midfielder, what do you have to do? Be vocal on the field. Was being vocal just something you just did one day, Evan? You just did it one day? Okay. So you have to prepare. John, he's talking about eating healthy, staying active so you can continuously stay on top of your game. Avery, repetition. And repetition is exactly where my thought went in relation to you have to practice. You have to practice. John and Evan, for sure, those aspects are accurate too. And you have to do certain things that help you be prepared to practice and get better. But you have aspects of your personality that make it easier to be a leader than some others, or you may not have certain aspects. Maybe you're not an extrovert. I would say I'm not an extrovert, but I've worked hard to develop certain traits about myself to help me become a leader. But like we talked about, in order to be a really good leader, you need to practice. You really need to identify these skills and practice. Let's see, John adds, show up ready to listen and follow the coach's drills. So being attentive, yep, and Evan, being willing to do what you're asking your followers to do. So if you're asking your team to behave a way, you're behaving that way too. Or even if it's outside of a team setting, it's really good, really good. So here's a couple specific skills to learn and to practice that can really help you in your journey to becoming a leader. And I think it's important that even if you identify yourself as a leader now, or maybe you don't feel like you're quite a leader yet, you can still become a better leader than who you are today, or you can grow into feeling like you truly are, because you all are capable of that. But the skills listed here are some of the really important areas to focus on as a leader. Do any of these stand out to anybody? Is anybody willing to share what any of these things mean to them? Posture stands out to Evan. Why does that stand out to you?
If you don't have good posture, it can show like you're lazy, and being like having good posture shows you're ready to like learn and grow.
So your body language really says a lot about you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really helpful. And I think good posture, so like sitting up straight, not slouching, being attentive and not turning away from people when they're talking to you, all of those things play into it. But it's similar to, I'm sitting here upright like this talking to all of you. If I was sitting like this and kind of hunched over, that demonstrates a lot of pieces. That could tell all of you that I'm not feeling very confident in myself. It maybe doesn't show that I'm as invested. If I'm sitting upright and I'm showing energy with my body language, it helps me show that I am confident and allow anybody that I'm trying to lead to have confidence in me. So that is actually really important. Thank you, Evan. And John says speaking skills because it helps people know that you're paying attention, okay? And that you care about the session, for example. Sure, I think another way, speaking skills specifically when you think about being a leader, practicing those would show up as, are you able to speak clearly and effectively so what you're saying is making sense to other people? I'm sure you've maybe had somebody at school or in your family or on your team that's been telling a story and you're like, what the heck are you talking about? And it's hard to follow what they're saying. If that's been you, that's okay, because certainly that's been me before. But recognizing that and then working to get better so you are able to be clearer really helps, one, with your confidence, and two, to help people trust and understand you. It's easier to pay attention to someone when you can understand what they're talking about. If we talk about listening skills, that's really that's what we talked about earlier. And I know Evan hopped in and talked about that when we were talking about listening to understand. Or the other option of that is listening to respond. So, of course, listening and responding are parts of conversations, and you do both of them. But where is your attention and your focus? And are you attentive and focused on what they're talking about? Collaborative skills and empathy are also really helpful. And does anybody know what empathy is? Could anybody unmute themselves and share what empathy is to them?
Empathy is like if, let's say, like your friend's grandma died, like not just being like, oh, that sucks, but actually like being like, oh, are you okay? And like showing empathy towards them, like asking them questions, like if they're okay or not.
Mm. Yeah, because if that happened, that'd be really sad, but you'd be able to recognize that they're sad and understand that they're feeling sad, right? It's a good example, Evan. John, do you have one to add?
It would be like you putting yourself in their footsteps. So like if your grandma died, would you be like, oh, it doesn't really matter? But like put yourself in their footsteps and try to
Exactly.
make them feel as best as they can.
Yes, exactly. And it's the capacity to understand or feel what another person is experiencing, and exactly what John and Evan talked about. It's from their point of view, not how you think you would feel if you were in their situation exactly, but how you think they feel based off of who they are. Um, that was really well said. Thanks, guys. And then the last one is collaborative skills. What does it mean to collaborate?
Being able to like work as a team and like collaborate.
Yeah. Let's see. Who can we get that hasn't voiced up yet? Caden.
Like,
Caden. Yeah. Caden or Blake,
Evan,
Jocelyn or
no.
Avery. Um, what does it look like to collaborate well with someone?
Like maybe everyone's working together, like one person isn't off doing another thing while someone else is doing all the work or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. That's great. So really your collaborative skills are your ability to work with others. Yeah. Blake, I think the group here would like you to pipe up. But when you think about your ability to work with others, is that something that's easy for you? Are you able to listen to other people's ideas when they might be different from yours? Can you make people in your group feel valued when you're working with them? All of those pieces all tie together in being able to collaborate. So as you look at these pieces, specifically like the skills to learn and practice, those are helpful spots to mark what can I really work on? What are aspects? Because those are things that you can actively practice. If your posture is not very good, can you actively try and remember to improve that? Can you look up ways to make that better? Can you put yourself in situations to work with other people frequently and practice doing that, and making sure you're including people when you're doing those things? Are you clear when you're talking? All of those good things. So now, as we look at where you can practice, there's a wide variety. Obviously, our world looks different now than what we would all hope it to be. But there are certain things like when hopefully we get back to whatever variation of normal is to you. Do you have the ability to volunteer to work with younger kids in sports, at church, synagogue, mosque, whatever is to you, whatever environment you find yourself in, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, anything like that? Do you have younger siblings, maybe even within your team, or have an environment where you could pair with somebody that you see as a leader, that's somebody that's older or more experienced than you? So the age gap and the idea of why we're talking about finding opportunities to lead younger players so much is because it just gives a cushion and kind of like a safety net, even though it's not foolproof, to practicing skills you're working on developing. Because remember, leadership is practiced. All of these aspects are practiced, and it is important to find room to actively practice. And when you are working with younger people, you allow for a bit of room of them to look at you with a bit of authority. Not always, but sometimes. John says my sister's a good leader and really helpful, and that's awesome. So you're able to see what your sister does and hopefully be around her when she's in a role where she's leading, and you can pay attention to what she does and says and how that impacts the people that are following her. Really good, John. Your team, all of you, is a pretty realistic scenario right now, being that we're all separated, but we all have access to Team Snap or social media or whatever other ways you guys are all communicating with each other. Oh, Evan, I like that. When I was younger, I would practice with my stuffed animals. And that might sound really funny and silly, but even practicing talking in front of others when that might be something that is not as easy for you, that is really, really helpful. Blake said, I'm in a church youth group and we work a lot with younger people. And that's a good way to work. It absolutely is a good way to work on your leadership. And John also practiced with his stuffed animals. That's great. And that is, I think, a really creative way to find an opportunity to practice these things, because you can't always just practice by thinking things through in your head. You have to have some actionable items where you can actually put your skills forward. But as we think about your teams and the access you have to them, could you think about a way to bring something back to them to help lead them as a group right now? This could possibly look like stepping out of your comfort zone and initiating something your team could do together. So if you can think of anything, maybe it's a challenge, maybe, sure, show them how to be vocal. If that's something you can do right now, Evan, that's great if you have an idea for that. But really right now, with how separated we are and that we're not together, you guys are gonna have to be some creative leaders to come up with ideas that can get everybody to participate and interact, because that's a really critical part to what we all can't do right now. But is there something, yeah, you can also practice with family members, John, really good. Is there something you can specifically think of that you could set up, encourage others, let them know you're happy to help them if that's applicable to whatever idea you have? I think TikTok is a great idea. I know a lot of other teams have used that and been creative with different juggling videos, and it's been really fun and awesome. And that stuff is awesome to keep building. John says TikTok's been good for him too. Let's see. Yeah, juggling transition video. Those are all really great ideas. And if you guys have the ability to start something like that, those things right now are great ideas. As you look ahead though, if you have the opportunity to partner in an environment, so I know John referenced his sister, with someone who you feel like is a good leader, and you had the ability to work alongside them or be alongside them and watch what they do and listen to what they say, and how others they are leading respond to their behaviors and actions. Observing is an important part of developing skills as well. So not just leadership, but remember, leadership is practice. And I've said that a whole bunch of times, and I'll probably say it a whole bunch more. But it is like riding a bike or learning to strike a ball or scoring goals. Seeing other people do what you hope to do does positively impact your abilities to put those things into action as well. All right, I wanted to share my leadership project, even where I'm at in my life as a coach and as a director. I'm continuously looking for ways to even develop my leadership skills. So I won't spend much time on talking about it, but since you guys all came here, I thought I would share, and you can go visit or not visit, either way, my Instagram you can see my handle right there, but I actively put myself out of my comfort zone, and I try to lead by example because I'm continuously asking all of my players to work, to try new things and push themselves. So I tried to do the same. It put me in a position where I had to be okay with not succeeding easily, which is not something I'm super comfortable with, especially not doing publicly. And then I was also willing to share my success publicly. Primarily, I did find that my experience really impacted how I led myself, and I felt a shift with that. And I had a really great hope as I was going through it that it had impacted others positively. And it has brought me a lot of connection right now to other people during this time of social isolation, which has been really cool. And I do believe it's made me a better leader. And I'm looking forward to pushing myself out of my comfort zone again. It's not always all about your comfort zone. Sometimes it's working within your comfort zone. For me, it was pushing myself out. But it is important to continuously think, what could I do to help be the leader in the version that I'd hope to be? So as we wrap up today, take a look at these questions and think about them and how they fit within you specifically to who you are. And you can kind of look back to the list you jotted down at the beginning. What qualities do you have that are aspects of being a leader? What qualities don't you have of aspects of being a great leader? What and where can you work on developing these skills that you don't have yet, or these characteristics or these qualities that you want to either gain or you want them to be stronger? And hopefully after our discussions today, you guys did a really great job contributing. You'll have a greater idea of areas you would like to continue to develop and hone your leadership skills and confidently place yourself into the great leader category. Great work today, everybody. Thanks for coming. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep up the good work on developing your leadership skills. Today was really a great example of a big step you all took to better yourself. And remember, it's a practice, not a born skill. Please, if you are willing, share the ideas that you have for yourself as developing as a leader with me throughout your journey of what you're doing. You can see my email here on the slide. It's dmarier@salvosoccer.org. And I would be really happy to hear how each of you take these things away and apply them to who you are and the groups you have the opportunity to lead. But that is where we will wrap up. It's been awesome to spend some time with you guys this evening. I hope you are doing well and staying healthy and staying sane. Keep up all the good work. Think about great creative ideas. And I can't wait to see the leaders you guys all become.